Oh, I feel like I've gone deaf. Can you hear me still?
hmm
Oh.
Oh, we're live on YouTube.
Hello, YouTube. Thank you very much for tuning in. We're just about to record our podcast for the evening, with the preview of the Canadian Grand Prix, a favourite of mine actually. So let's get right in about it. Um, Okie dokie. Hello and welcome to the Everything F1 podcast with me, James Tiller, and alongside me from the Everything F1 team, we do have Coops. Coops, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. You looking forward to the weekend in Canada?
Yeah, I like the Canadian track. As
Good, good.
Sean said in the previous podcast said before, like you can tell that Canadians and in that city just absorb everything about Formula One. So
Hmm.
it kind of translates to the screen. And generally speaking, we usually have something to discuss in the Canadian Grand Prix. So. And also, it
Yeah.
helps. It's probably one of the only tracks when I used to play the F1 games I was relatively decent at. Couldn't do
It
any of the
always
others. That
helps.
one I enjoyed. So.
You also had a giggle in the background from Sean. Hiya, Sean. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. This is a personal favorite of mine as well.
And you've been to the Canadian Grand Prix, haven't you?
I have indeed. It's the first Grand Prix I ever went to. I used to live in Montreal for a couple of years, and yes, they go absolutely nuts for Formula One over there. It's an absolutely incredible experience. Great track. It's a public park, so you can just walk around it and drive around it most of the year. I
Hmm.
took a rental car for a skid in the snow around there on New Year's Day once. It's good fun.
Lovely.
It's an awesome track, and like most people who visit it, I did, of course, sign the Wall of Champions. Although I think they painted over it this week with the Qatar logos. So, but
Uh,
I know my signature's there somewhere.
It's underneath the paintwork, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. Well, we'll get into the Canadian Grand Prix preview just after these short messages. We are Everything F1. You can find us on our social channels. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. Plus, obviously, YouTube, where you're hopefully watching us today or listening to us on the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the subscribe button on all of those channels to get all the latest news, reviews, of course, podcasts and memes, and even more. Just head over to at join EF1 on any one of those social platforms and you'll find us. Massive thanks, of course, to our sponsor, theraceworks.com, who continue to sponsor us and obviously keep us on the air. Remember to use the discount code EF1 at checkout for 10% off the whole site. You can get merchandise from all teams across the grid. Also, just about our YouTube channel, we're running a giveaway. Once we hit 500 subscribers, one lucky fan will win a Lego Speed Champions F1 set from a team of your choice. All you have to do is pretty simple. Head to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. When we get to 500 subscribers, we will give one away to one of those lucky subscribers. And again, when we get to 1,000 subscribers, we'll send another one out to another fan. So please enter that, build our YouTube channel, and help our message get across to more and more F1 fans. Okay, let's set the scene. This weekend's race takes place in the legendary Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada. We've got a lap length of 4.361 kilometres with 70 laps in total, which makes the total race distance of 305.27 kilometres. The first Grand Prix was actually in 1978, so we've been racing there for quite a long time. And the current lap record is held by Valtteri Bottas, who did so in 2019 at 1 minute 13.078 seconds. The most wins for a driver is tied with Schumacher and Hamilton, each having seven wins there each. So you never know, it might happen. I think there'd have to be some rain for that record to be broken by Hamilton instead of tied. But we will see when Sunday comes along. The most wins as a constructor is Ferrari with 14 wins. So it's a classic circuit that blends high speed straights with brutal braking zones and is always a fan favourite and no stranger to chaos. Sean, what has been your favourite memory, apart from obviously going, from a race itself in Canada?
Well, apart from the obvious of actually being there, I'm gonna take first advantage of this one and say 2011, the greatest Formula One race of all time, the longest Formula One race of all time, the greatest win in Jenson Button's career. A really
Mm.
satisfying moment for those of us who were sick of Sebastian Vettel's finger at the time, seeing him spin that wide. I think it was turn six that he dipped a toe in the wet
Mm.
stuff, and Button passed him on the last lap. I think did he go through the pits six times? He was last twice.
6 or 7, yeah, yeah, it was
He made
crazy.
Alonso beach himself. He absolutely took Hamilton out on the main straight, and he went from 20th to first in 20 laps to win the race on the last race. If you, for some reason, if anybody's listening, if you have not seen that race, what are you doing? What have you been doing for the past 14 years? I have no doubt Sky will have it on this weekend. They always do in the lead up to the Canadian Grand Prix. I have it saved on my Skybox from I think about 14 years ago. And
Mm.
I will of course be rewatching it again this weekend. I encourage you watch that race. It was an absolute masterclass in wet weather management. Brilliant strategy. Really, really
Mm.
exciting. Although I don't have fond memories of watching it live because I'm pretty sure I had a nap during it because the red flag went on for so damn long. It was four
Mm.
and a half hours long, I think was the full lights to flag. So it's a long race,
Mm.
but it's an absolute classic.
Yeah, weather-wise, this weekend actually, we're looking at cloudy conditions across the weekend. There is a chance of light rain on Sunday, so hopefully that could bring unpredictable kind of conditions, coops for Sunday. Do you think that's likely? Do you think that would favour a particular driver?
No, if it's just light rain, it depends on where on the track, how long it's going to be, and
Mm.
where the driver is on the track if they have to change. Uh, I quite like the idea of it if it's just that kind of just enough rain where your excuse me, your strategist to like should be going, should be not. Somebody chances it, somebody doesn't, somebody goes in the wall. Like it's not like full on rain whenever you just know you're
Mm.
going to go into the pits. It's just that kind of on the line of when do you do it, when you know. Uh, and yeah, if it ends up happening, it'll probably cause some drama because the Canadian Grand Prix is effectively a street circuit.
Hmm.
That it's quite a tight, twisty. The walls are right there. There's not a lot of runoff, and the runoff that you do have, if it's wet, you're hitting the wall. So yeah, it'll be entertaining regardless. And now that I've said that, it'll probably be the most boring one I've had in a long time.
Well, did you want to? Obviously, I asked Sean about his favourite Canadian Grand Prix. Have you got a different favourite or a fond memory from the circuit that you wish to talk about before we kind of get into the previewing how the teams will do?
See, I'm quite weird, and that's not just because I'm Scottish. Uh, I'm kind of weird in that I don't have favourite races
Mm.
necessarily. It's moments that I remember, like, the end of the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the Silverstone where Schumacher crashes and breaks his leg, and everyone's like, oh, what's going to happen with the rest of the season? There's all sorts of
Mm.
moments. I wasn't old enough to remember it live, but Ayrton Senna, I think, at Donington Park in the rain. There's things, Montoya, multiple different things to do with Juan Pablo Montoya in his short career in Formula One. Uh,
Mm.
so the one that kind of pops to mind is probably Seb Vettel spitting the ultimate dummy when he lost the race to Lewis Hamilton because he got a penalty and refused to park his car in the top three. Then he had to go in. He wasn't actually going to go in and go to the podium, and the team were like, "You need to because we're going to get fined." And he walked up and swapped over the two and the one, and that
Yeah.
was just pure pantomime. It was ultimate cinema, pure cinema.
Was that 2019?
18.
18.
18.
Yeah, it was the older cars. I know that
Mm.
much. But it was fun. Yeah, it was interesting.
Good. Good, good. Well, how about McLaren's then? Obviously, we're going to talk about the championship leaders at the moment. They are well ahead in the Constructors' Champion. I've just got the stats above in front of me right now. McLaren are on 362 points to second place Ferrari at 165 points, which is, well, it's more than double. A clear advantage over the rest of the field. But Oscar and Lando themselves, personally, are only split by 10 points. So they're obviously favourites going into the Canadian Grand Prix, Sean. But out of the two, who is going to dominate?
Oh, I'm on a bad run of predictions, unfortunately. But this is a street circuit by all the intents and purposes. And of the two of them, Lando Norris is far better on street circuits. He's won all of them, has he not, in the past year?
Mm.
Um, Obviously dominated in Monaco. He won in Australia. He won in Singapore. He Oscar won in Baku. So there's that. But on street circuit form, Lando Norris is in I think pole position for this one, so to speak. And he was also on the podium last year in Canada to Max Verstappen, right as McLaren were starting to get their proverbials together. So. I will say Lando, but I'm not going to say he'll dominate.
Okay.
No, I don't. I don't see a domination. I like Oscar's not slow. I think it's just as simple as that. Um, Lando really needs to dial out that gremlin of Q3, second lap in
Mm.
Q3. Like I can't believe he was able to do it in Monaco, and then literally hasn't really done it since Australia. Other than that, it's that second lap in Monaco. It's the second lap in Q3 in general. Just seems to be his one glaring weakness, such as it is. He's still qualifying second, but it's his one. I think that's his gulf to Oscar at the moment. Is Oscar's just robotic ability to do the same thing over and over and over again, and just never
Mm.
feel that like he treats the last lap in Q3 as if it's the first lap in FP1. He just goes a lot faster. Um, but I think it's gonna be a good weekend. I don't see anybody else really getting close to the McLarens. I don't particularly think this track is going to suit Red Bull all that much. I definitely don't think it's going to suit Ferrari. Just the way you have to absolutely clout the curbs. Ferrari are going to have to run their car so high. It's
Mm.
just going to slow them right the way down. I hope I'm wrong, but ugh, I think McLaren, they'll have this pretty comfortably, and I'm going to say I hope Lando will see it out, but it's not going to be a dominant one over the other.
Coops, same to you in terms of McLaren's form. Obviously, in the form of their life, there is no way that they should lose this season at all if everything remains at least on par or maybe a little bit closer. Um, but out of this weekend at Canada, what do you think is going to happen between the two? Do you think we're going to see them come together? It's really competitive. There's only 10 points between them. Could we see a ding dong, or will it be kind of one flying off into the distance over the other?
No, I don't think they'll fly off. I think they'll be relatively close. I still think it's probably going to be Piastri. And I did kind of laugh to myself there when you said ding dong, because I don't even think that if there's a ding dong that Piastri would even notice. He just doesn't get, he just wouldn't get flustered. He's just like, Lando's like, oh yeah, no, everyone. He'll be like, was that? Oh, okay,
Mm.
fine. Uh, I'm just getting slowly but surely in the Piastri can do no wrong camp at the moment, and he just is not getting flustered at all.
Yeah, very
And
cool
that's
character.
he is just, and I don't know what Lando can do to really get him flustered. I think the most flustered he got was there not some red light in a balcony in one of the races, and he was like a little bit of red
It's
flag, and he got a wee bit annoyed.
in Saudi
Uh,
Arabia.
yeah, and that was about it.
Mm.
And I think that's the part that I think people seem to not realize the importance of that. Seb Vettel should have beat Lewis Hamilton and got himself flustered, skidded off the road in Germany. Couldn't get himself
Mm.
back in because he got himself in his head. And I'm sure there's other drivers out there that could have done more. But, Max Verstappen, probably out of these won 4 championships, he's in there or thereabouts. But, you can argue that he gets a bit too emotional.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
and people might come at me at it, but there's a lot of evidence out there,
Yeah.
and very recent evidence to show that he does not like it when someone's like, "Who are you, Max? Who?" Sorry. And Piastri does have a wee bit of that as well. Piastri's probably the only one who would go wheel to wheel with Verstappen and not care. Other drivers, I think unless I can nail this, I'm not going to do it, and I mean that in a sense of get down the inside and pass him without Max Verstappen really knowing. Whereas Oscar's just like, no, I'm putting my car in the outside. You deal with it. The other drivers are a bit scared. Oscar's like, no, I mean, it's fine. My car's better than yours. If you hit me, you need more results, better results than we do because I've got the car. And I think in general, Oscar just wouldn't care who's in front of him. If he wants to pass him, he's doing it regardless. So,
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of both of you have mentioned Red Bull there, but Red Bull are coming off quite a tough weekend that they had in Spain. And the headline, I guess, at the moment is Max Verstappen has 11 penalty points on his license. So one more point and he's facing a race ban. Sean, how do you think Red Bull will recover in Spain? And do you think the penalty point or the risk of a penalty point puts that extra pressure on for Max to keep it clean?
I do, and I'm going to back up this, but I know why Red Bull are panicking, and you can see why. Arvid Lindblad has been granted his super license despite not being 18. Red Bull have been pushing for this for weeks. They claim it's nothing to do with Max or anything like that. They just, yeah. Who has ever believed anything Red Bull have ever claimed? No, Arvid Lindblad gets his super license, which they have been absolutely banging the door down on. All that they've been pushing for it for a while. But all of a sudden, Max is about to get a race ban, and they need another driver, don't they? Because Max gets a ban, they put Hadjar in the car probably for a weekend, or can they replace him? Yeah, they can replace him, can't they?
Yeah.
They can replace Max. I think that's an odd rule. I think the car should be banned as well. But anyway, because it's a team sport, isn't it? If one suffers, they should all suffer.
Yeah, but I suppose Max was the one that lost his head in that moment of, racing, let's say.
Yeah,
not the team. The team didn't lose their head. The team told him what to do. So
yeah,
I don't know.
But in this one scenario, they've been building up the points for a while. So they would probably replace him with Hadjar for a weekend. But they would need another driver, and Colapinto's not available anymore. And who else would they do? It's Lindblad or nobody. So now they've got that sorted. Max can go play bowling in Canada this weekend with other cars. Because
do you think that's likely, Coops?
No, he's just going to
carry on short first.
Sorry, I don't think they'd hold him back as much. That solves a problem for Red Bull. One, it clears his schedule and his license, and two, they get to test Hadjar in the car and see can he do it with no commitment needed. Just toss him back into the racing bulls the next week. Yeah, that's tinfoil hat stuff. But I don't know, if I was Christian Horner, I'd be like, yeah, Max, just don't give the position back this time.
Coops, do you think Max will go out still fighting as he normally does, or do you think he'll be a bit more cautious?
No, Max is Max. Max has always been Max. He's not going to change. I mean, he doesn't care.
Even with the penalty, even with the sitting out a race for one race, or to lose the opportunity to continue his because at the end of the day, one race would be the potential for his championship kind of run. I know he's already lost so many points. I think is he 40 points behind Lando Norris at the moment. So he's already a way down on the McLaren pair. So if he wants to have that fifth championship, especially in a row, God, who's done 5 in a row? Is it just Fangio? I think that was
Fangio, Schumacher.
And Schumacher.
Schumacher did 5 in a row. Did Lewis do 5 in a row? No, Nico Rosberg got in his way.
He got in his way in 2017.
16. Nico got in his way.
16.
Yeah, Fangio and Schumacher are the only two to do 5 in a row.
Yeah, so it's an elite club to join, 5 in a row.
Max doesn't give a shit about that. He doesn't care.
Yeah, I think he does. I think he puts on this front that he doesn't. No. I think he does.
All the drivers that actually probably doesn't care about it, Max is probably the one. He's got his money. He's won his championships. No, he doesnn't.
I completely disagree. Completely. He's all about the championships. He's all about it. He's even said in interviews, I'm not here. I'm not going to be here forever. I'm not going to do blah 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 blah. But 7 championships would be nice, or 8 championships would be nice to be. He does care. He puts on this big front that he doesn't care, but he absolutely does care. That's why he's so passionate in the car. He cares.
No. Max is this passionate when he does his iRacing, so let's not. Come on. I think that this is probably the only time that Red Bull could probably get him to rein it in because he could miss out, and it's not because he wants to miss out on racing. I think it's more because of the effect it would have on the team and the kind of PR and all that around it. I mean, he's driving a car that's designed and helped and worked on by a lot of people, and so he does have a responsibility. And like, sometimes he comes out as a bit boneheaded and as if he doesn't really care about that side of things. But I think he may there may be that wee second of shoulda, whereas before he just wouldn't bother. And
out of interest, does anyone know when the first lot of points come off his
after
license?
Austria, next 2 races.
Is it Austria?
No, after Spain. He's on 11 till Spain, and then I think he loses 2, but that still leaves him. If he gets 3 in Austria, he'll get a ban. A chunk of them come off in Austria because I think he got 5, did he, or something like that, for all the smacking around with Lando that he did last year. But yeah, he loses. I think he loses 1 or 2 this weekend, and then he'll lose a chunk of them after Austria, so he would be safe from a race ban. But going into whatever happens in Spain, he's still at risk for a race ban after Austria. So he has to keep his nose clean twice at races that he has not been good at that in the past.
Yeah. So he's got 2 races to watch what he's doing. As Sean basically says.
So the pressure's on.
Yeah, but I think it's good though, because I think other drivers are going to just stick their nose in and maybe just it's a bit
wind him up a bit.
A bit like the football when you see a team playing against another team who has a kind of hot-headed player, you tell your defender, stick the ankle in, just give a wee nudge because you know where it's going to end up. I think
or a player with a yellow card. Yeah, player with a yellow card, go and wind him up a bit more. Yeah,
it's like players when Patrick Vieira used to play for Arsenal. He was very hot-headed in his early career. You used to see it. First 5-10 minutes, player would dive in, get a yellow card, he would be raging. And see by an hour in, red card. Nailed on. So, I think drivers might be a wee bit more up for... Because it's the other thing is he's kind of got one hand behind his back, because if you dive bomb, he ain't just going to stick his car on the side of your side pod, because, he's got to watch what he's doing. Because, like I say, it's not just him now, it's a lot of other issues if he gets a race back. So I think, he might have to kind of back out of things he wouldn't necessarily back out of. Puts him in a very tricky position, and it's interesting for us, I think. And then watch this, he'll just be Max Verstappen, like we kind of think he probably will be anyway, and then he will be there for Austria.
Well, let's be honest. If he gets to the front and he can put the McLaren's behind him on pole, and get on pole, he can drive off a little bit and keep himself clean anyway. So, it might all be a complete moot point, and he controls the race from the front. But it does add that level of spice from the for us watching the Canadian Grand Prix. Another 2 teams we need to talk about are Ferrari and Mercedes. It's kind of a midfield battle at this point, I guess, between Ferrari and Mercedes. Kind of Mercedes being the best of the rest, certainly in the constructors. They are the 159 points they're on, just behind Ferrari. So only a matter of 7.6 points between them. Sorry, my child's just walked in. Go up to the shower. Close the door, Arony.
This is the benefit of the live. You see right in behind the curtain.
Push it closed. Good boy. Sorry about that. So Ferrari and Mercedes. Mercedes being kind of best of the rest at the moment. Obviously, just 6 points behind for. I've all gone discombobulated now. I do apologise. So let's talk about the Mercedes and Ferrari team. Obviously, they are really close in the championship at the moment. Just a matter of 6 points between them, between Mercedes and Ferrari. Ferrari being second, obviously, in the championship. Mercedes being third. There's a real possibility, that could go right down to the wire, because both teams are showing kind of real strength in certain areas, but real weaknesses in others. Mercedes and George Russell specifically. He's obviously he's been your driver of the season so far. Do you think he can continue that stance and be driver of the season for the rest of the season? And is he going to take it to the Ferraris and beat Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton?
Well, he had a glitch in Monaco, that's for sure. And I was the first one to call him out on it. I thought the 10-second penalty in Monaco for deliberately cutting the corner and admitting to deliberately cutting the corner was just poor form. Expect a bit more from George of all people for something like that. But he bounced right back in Spain and put himself right in George Russell territory, being in the top five of everything, just sort of existing there. Um,
Mm.
Obviously, in Spain he got a little bit. He benefited from, Max's wildness in the end, because obviously Max got the penalty and George got no penalties because he didn't deserve any penalties, and took on fourth place, right behind Charles Leclerc, and arguably possibly could have caught Charles Leclerc if Max hadn't hit him.
Mm.
Um, if Max had just let him through and let him go about it, George possibly could have caught Charles, and we might. It was only what, a second between them. Yeah, he was less than a second behind him on the line. That is the time he lost being smacked by Max. So we could be having a different conversation. When it comes to the constructors' standings, yeah, 6 points between them. Kimi retiring did not help Mercedes on that. Now,
Mm.
grand scheme of things, it was maybe a 4 point swing. He was sixth when he retired, and Lewis finished sixth. So if there was maybe 3 or 4 points either side of it, I still think Ferrari would be ahead if they'd have all finished otherwise exactly where they were. Um, but it's just a knock to Kimi's confidence, unfortunately. Again, after a really bad weekend, he just had an awful triple header, actually.
Mm.
Imola crashed out. Monaco crashed in, barely started. Like it was a bad weekend for Kimi, but you'd hope Toto's just sort of sitting him down, calming him down. There's a lot of distractions. Monaco is Monaco. It's impossible at the best of times for even the very best drivers. How many times have we seen Charles Leclerc absolutely bin it into the wall in Monaco over the past few years? All but once,
Mm.
actually, as it happens. The one time he won it. So maybe Kimi just stops crashing in Monaco, he'll win it next year. But yeah, no, I think George. I think the two of them are going to continue to take that fight to Ferrari. I would not be comfortable as a Ferrari fan right now. They are second in the championship somehow. The double retirement in China, and they're somehow in fit. But I suppose, like, balancing the scales, uh, Mercedes basically had that comeback in Monaco, so they're kind of even Stevens on that. Ferrari have 3 podiums and a sprint win to
Mm.
Mercedes's 4 podiums, so it's as even as you can get. But Russell's ahead of Leclerc in fourth, and if Max Verstappen keeps going the way he is, I wouldn't put it past George nicking top three position in the championship this year, and I still wouldn't bet against him winning a race this year. Silverstone, maybe something like that, maybe a Brazil again. He's very, very good there. Um, I said this a couple of years ago, and I was right that Mercedes would win one race and it would be George, not Lewis. I'm going to make that same call again. Mercedes is going to win one race this year, and it'll be George again, not Kimi.
Okay. Ferrari, though, Coops and Lewis Hamilton was very downbeat after the end of the previous Grand Prix. Obviously, just didn't know what the heck was going on with him or his car. He didn't blame the car in the end, and he just said it's just himself. Obviously, a real kind of change of mood um, for Lewis Hamilton. You very rarely see him like that. Do you think his past success at the Canadian Grand Prix at the Gilles Villeneuve circuit is going to help him this weekend kind of maximise his points, maximise his opportunity against obviously teams like Mercedes or Red Bull or even McLaren?
I mean, who knows at the minute with the Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton? It's just not quite clicking. It's not gelling. But he's not forgotten how to drive. But then we said this about Sebastian Vettel after he won his 4 championships. Went to Ferrari, it just didn't work for him.
Mm.
Admittedly, Seb went to Ferrari at a time when he wasn't coming to the end of his career. Lewis is coming to the end of his career, and maybe he has lost a tenth or two as age does to most people. Yes, it's a strange one. He could come out and be amazing, and we'd all be like, "Oh, he's back," or he could come out and be floundering around the bottom half of the top 10, or he could go and win it. And the weird thing about it is that maybe other than the victory, I wouldn't be surprised with anything else.
Mm.
Him being on the podium, not surprised. It's Lewis Hamilton. Him being eight, not surprised with the way the season's going. It's a very weird kind of situation he's under just now.
Yeah, absolutely. He's also been in the news where he's playing down the suggestions that he's having issues with his engineer. Obviously, there's been lots of speculation in the news recently about how, well, from Lewis Hamilton fans saying they need to get rid of him, to the media kind of saying there's a bad relationship, blah, 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 blah. It's not working, it's not clicking. What are your thoughts? Obviously, an engineer is a key person that you want to have in your ear, you want to be comfortable with. Do you think that relationship, Sean, is going to work? It's going to click one day? Do you think it should be a case where he needs to choose his own race engineer, or do you think, he's got to deal with what he's got really, and take it on it upon him personally to build that relationship with him?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Obviously, when he announced that he was going to Ferrari last year, we all immediately assumed that Pete Bonnington would be going with him.
Yeah.
But he didn't. Bono stayed on. He's at a new, more senior main base job in Mercedes now. I don't think he's at he's trackside anymore. Certainly not as
Mm.
often. If I was Lewis, Ricardo Adame has been around forever. But at the end of the day, Ricardo Adame is not the one in the car scoring the points. Lewis Hamilton is. And if they might get along well. There might be absolute. I don't believe for a second there's any sort of animosity or anything between them. There's just something. I don't mean this literally, so forgive me if this sounds a bit flippant. There's something lost in translation between them.
Mm.
And I mean that more conceptually than literally, because obviously Ricardo Adame speaks perfect English. Something is just not clicking with them. Maybe it's Lewis has just been too used to Bono being able to read his mind for 10 years. But, on the flip side of that, if you go back to 2013 or 2014 when you got Bono, whatever it was, there's a bedding in process. But I think where Lewis is in his career now, as we said, he's coming to Ferrari towards the end of the career. He doesn't have time for a bedding in process anymore. He just doesn't. Not with his race engineer. It's bad enough that he's to bed in with the new team, the new way of doing things. He's waiting for this new car, so then there'll be a bedding in with an entire new generation of cars. And if he's already he knows how these cars work. And okay, the Ferrari engine's a bit different to the Mercedes engine, but with the best one in the world, they're not that different, really, are they? They're Formula One cars. Um, it's if I was Lewis, unfortunately, as harsh as this might sound, I'd be demanding a new race engineer. And I don't know what the solution to it is. I'm not the one who's going to make this decision, but whatever it is about Ricardo Adame and Lewis Hamilton, it's just not working. And the fact is, Adame is much easier to replace right now than Lewis Hamilton is. And if Fred Vasseur wants Lewis to be up there with Charles, hopefully fighting for whatever they're going to be fighting for the rest of this year and into next year, where if they don't get next year right, not only are they losing
Mm.
Lewis, they'll lose Charles Leclerc. It's as simple as that. His contract runs out next year, and if they haven't nailed the regs next year, he's gone too. The last thing Fred Vasseur should be having on his mind is whether Lewis is having arguments over the radio publicly with his race engineer. I'd be changing him at the summer break, if not before then.
Coops, would you change the engineer now?
Well, I would like to say that it's just a working relationship, but it's not the first time that we've seen Ferrari be inconsistent. I think or indecisive is probably the better phrase. But Lewis is a bit quicker to come back and go, really? No, we're not doing it. Why are we doing that? Rather than doing the political thing of, I'll speak to them after. I think the only time I really heard it was Carlos Sainz. It was at Silverstone a couple of years back where he was like, I'm not doing
Don't make
that.
me do it.
Yep, I'm
Mm.
not doing it. It's still happening. Otherwise, they kind of did. But yeah, relationships like Bono and Hamilton took years to get organised. It doesn't happen in a few races. It's a different relationship. It always will be different. Is it broken where they need to replace it? Probably not. Would I be surprised
And
again
let's
if they did do it? No.
Yeah, and let's be honest, if he got a new engineer, there'd be a bedding period with that new engineer as well. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like playing, which is worse, the devil you don't, the devil you do or the devil you don't, I guess.
But also, we've got to
Um,
remember it's Ferrari and a strategy wall. We've had these conversations before and they haven't been positive. So it's just
yeah.
Lewis reacting to this kind of indecisive
He
nature
must have
that.
known what he was
Uh,
getting into when he when he signed up for Ferrari.
but
Has
then,
he
but
been
then
watching the F1?
he's kind of busy while it's on the telly.
No, but do you think he watches races when he gets home and sees how diabolical their decision making has been? Is that not what you would do as a Formula One driver? Go and watch yourself on TV for 2 hours?
Judging from that special he did with Martin Brundle a few years ago, where he watched back some of his best races, no, he's never seen his own races before. They literally watched his win again in 2008, the Is That Glock, and Lewis is like, "Oh, I've never seen this before." His first championship, the big one. So unfortunately, no, I don't think he's doing a Tom Brady and going back and reviewing the game tapes. Maybe he should. Maybe he should, but I don't think he's been doing that up to now in his career.
I also don't think it would have served him very well to come in with any preconceived ideas or, from what he's seen in the past, because he's not involved in it. And do we know that, the snippets you get on the telly, maybe there was, or the broadcast, maybe there was a different agreement behind the scenes during a briefing, and then they spring a surprise on the driver and they're having a wee argy-bargy, or they're being inconsistent because of something else. You don't have the big picture. We get given the things that are, cinema for the broadcasters, or something to put out there to look good and sound good and get a bit of controversy at times. So
to be fair to Lewis, what he did say when he was quizzed, that it's not really working, or like what's going on between him and his engineer. He did say that it's just noise, which doesn't make any difference to the job we're trying to do. He went on to say, quoting, "Our relationship is great, no problems. We're constantly learning more and more about each other. We're constantly adapting to the way both of us like to work." So
that's
again, it's the bedding in period. But again, I think if Fred Vasseur was like, "Well, here's my pocket, here's my wallet, go call Bono," give him a complete blank check, I think Lewis would absolutely snap his arm off to go and bring Bono back in.
Yeah, but then I think a lot of drivers would do that, and no disrespect to anyone else. I mean, Hamilton fans will be feeling the fire of that sort of situation, but like, you build a relationship with your race engineer. It's a strong relationship. You look at what's his name, at Max Verstappen's race engineer. I mean, GP, yep. They two bicker like they're brothers, and you're like, oh, they're having a fight, and then obviously they shake hands, have a beer, whatever it is they do, and they move on to the next time. And GP's has also got Max's number. When Max has been a bit too Max, he just flat out monotone. No, that's why. Why are we on the hard? It's the last tire we had left. Okay, done. That's it. That's the only option. Keep driving.
Yeah, he is like his big brother sometimes, isn't he?
Like, just shut up and get on with it. It's like,
back to work.
Say, who you talking to? It's the tone, isn't it? Sometimes, but I think that's the thing. Like, sometimes, and this is going to sound worse than it is, that the race engineer needs to lose that respect they have for Hamilton, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that he's a 7-time world champion, and I think sometimes that's in the back of the mind. Oh, this is Lewis Hamilton.
It's intimidating. Yeah.
Like, you need to get rid of that. Like, you've got a purpose. Just tell him flat out, we're doing this.
Do you think Lewis's approach maybe feels that unintentionally, because Lewis Hamilton, of all people, doesn't he's the last person to go around making everyone call him Sir, for example. But the way he's come into Ferrari, and he's, as we sort of all knew he would, he's demanding things quicker. He's demanding them to kind of get onto Mercedes' level, or even McLaren's level. And they're not, because they're Ferrari. And that's their biggest weakness. And maybe he thought he could come in and fix them in that sense and just kind of demand better. Is that maybe coming across in Maranello as, ooh, look at this guy, just stay back from him. He's 7. Maybe do what he says, but maybe whether it makes sense or not. I think China is maybe a good example of that. Like Lewis has even admitted, he said, "I want the car lower," and they're like, okay, Mr. Hamilton, you can have the car lower. We're going to get disqualified though, but we won't tell you that till we just get disqualified. Have a bit of backbone. Tell him no. He knows they have more information than he does. It just needs to be delivered to him in the proper way, and that's what Bono was always able to do.
Yeah, but that's on Ferrari, and if Ferrari didn't realise that Lewis is going to come in with a level and a demand for things to be a certain way. I mean, you're looking at it as similar as parallels to when Toto Wolff came in and decided to take in at Mercedes. He spoke about that when he came into reception. The papers were like 3 or 4 days old. There was coffee rings on the table. he said those are the small things you get right. These are the details you get right. You have to foster a specific type of attitude from the paper that sits in reception to the look of things. To it has to go up from the bottom part right up to the race team in the garage itself. Bit like Ron Dennis as well. So when Ferrari get Lewis and then get surprised when Lewis comes in and went, I want this quicker, I want it done now, now, now. Come on, let's get it. It's like, come on, like really.
That's what they wanted ultimately. When you hire a 7-time champion, that's what you want an element of, them kind of bossing you about a bit, kind of telling you what they want, telling you what they need to be where he has been 7 times previously, or 8 times previously.
In any sport, that'll happen if they go out and buy a marquee signing, like in American sports, where they buy the franchise player, as they call it, or somebody goes out and spends 150 million on a player in soccer over here. They have a standard. If you're bringing somebody in with a reputation about they've won trophies, even a manager, you bring in a new manager and it's a coup. You've brought a guy in who's won the Champions League. They're going to have the Champions League mentality. They're going to have the expectation that if you're hiring me, this is what I expect from you. This is what I expect from every player. This is what I expect from everybody. It's the same for drivers. So Ferrari don't understand it, or they're shocked by it. That's on them. But also they have to have the backbone that if we bring him in, he's going to expect this. But we need to explain to him what the expectations are. We need to temper his expectations if what he's asking for is unrealistic, and we can't be scared to do it. Because if people are too scared or are too respectful, then it's just not going to work. They need to be open, honest, to put the big boy pants on and just have adult conversation. Like, we will listen to you. However, this is the way it's going to have to work. Like, I know you want the car lower, but we're going to get disqualified. So when they're doing this, this is the lowest it will go. And if he goes in the huff about it or raises his huff is probably a bad word when you're talking about Lewis, because people will latch onto it. But if Lewis isn't happy with that, fine. But explain it to him, as Sean says, explain it to him in the right way. Then he's got no choice but accept it. And Ferrari to maybe get a bit of backbone about them, and Lewis needs to understand that things work differently.
Okay, is anyone looking forward to any other teams racing this weekend and think they're particularly got a good shot? I mean, Nico Hulkenberg, for example, for Sauber. That's an interesting thing coming off the back of Spain, or Fernando Alonso with Aston Martin. Pick another team that we haven't spoken about and just have a little brief couple of lines on them. We'll go to Sean first.
Well, I think we have to mention Lance Stroll and Aston Martin. Obviously, it's Lance's home race. He went off allegedly through a huff, but apparently his injury revolving was nothing to do with that. That it was sort of a build-up of a couple of weeks. It was related to his bike crash from a couple of years ago. He did actually have surgery with the same surgeon who did his injury back then. Last I heard, he is planned to be in Canada. So he looks like he's okay, but they haven't ruled out that he'll be there yet, or that he won't be there yet. They still have everything in mind. They have more time to make the decision, though, this time around. I think Felipe Drugovich has pretty much already said that he is happy to not be at Le Mans this weekend if it means that he has even a chance of getting into a Formula One car. I think that's the right thing to do. Valtteri Bottas is also waiting in the wings. He wants to get, if he got in a car before Cadillac make their choice, that's still up in the air. The Sergio Perez news we thought was going to happen in Miami, it didn't. Valtteri Bottas gets back in the car and impresses, different conversation. But Lance Stroll looks like he should be okay this weekend, and if he makes it back again, top kudos to him, because making it back in the first place a couple of years ago after that injury was very, very impressive. I am by no means a Lance Stroll fan. I think I even said it a couple of weeks ago that, if Lawrence Stroll is maybe a little bit smart about the PR around this, this could be his alley to shuffle Lance off into the Valkyrie program without having to fire his son, publicly anyway. But doesn't look like that's going to happen. Looks like Lance wants to drive. It's his home race. He might want to go out at least for practice. Like I said, the reason there's a couple of questions around this. Again, the reason that Drugovich couldn't take his place in Spain is that Lance had already qualified. You can't make a driver swap once you've done once you've taken part in qualifying, not even completed it. This time around, they have the option full weekend of practice. So if Lance gets in the car on Friday in practice and decides, actually, no, I can't do it, they'll throw somebody else in the car for the rest of the weekend. But I think that's one way or another. I think it's going to be one to watch this weekend. If Lance makes it back and does a good job, good for him. Well done. If he doesn't, it'll be fascinating to see who Aston put in that car.
Coops, same question to you. Do you want to speak about anyone in particular going into the Canadian Grand Prix weekend that we haven't mentioned?
Well, I'm going to mention Mercedes, but I'm going to mention the Mercedes power unit because that's
Oh,
two
okay.
races where we've had two different failures to do with the power unit.
They've
Uh,
been pretty bomb-proof over the last, say, 10 years, haven't they? So it's quite
yep.
strange to see them failing so often. I say so often, but the last couple of races, as you say.
Yeah, I mean the George one in Monaco, it just called out. Battery went, yeah. I didn't catch what was Antonelli's one, but it was very much it was very clear that it was a power
It's
unit thing.
hydraulic as well, so yeah, it's the power unit related.
So yeah, so you know, it's rare in this day and age of Formula One to see the traditional blue smoke out the back of the exhaust, which you used to see a lot of. I can remember Jenson Button's Honda blowing up, and it was a proper, you know, blue smoke everywhere type situation. I missed that. I missed them. You know, it was quite. It was very Formula One. Uh, so it'll be very interesting if there's any more issues in Gremlins, because if you go to a third time where there's an issue, depending on who it is, you know, we're talking issues with the pool and you know components for later on in the season, and we're not even halfway through. And with Mercedes doing a relatively good job in keeping up at the front, generally speaking, with George and you know Antonelli getting a bit of form up until recently, you know that could really hinder them, and they were looking like they'd kind of got a lot of things right this season.
But that could have McLaren kind of a bit shaky about it. Obviously, that's a Mercedes engine that they've got in the back there. But they're just doing well at the moment with it. Could the Gremlins attack the McLaren team, and could that change the face of the Drivers' Championship in some way? I think it's an
I,
interesting conversation. It's a bit of a rhetorical question, really, because who knows? I
Well, yeah, I
guess.
mean, it's the same power unit, and you know, you hope there isn't some sort of bedded in design issue in general, or is it just that Mercedes, the team, have just been unlucky? They might
Hmm.
never have another failure again, and then McLaren might have a couple. Uh, but it'll be interesting if I think for Mercedes, they need to kind of make sure. I think in their own heads, they'll be like, we need to get over the whole weekend without power unit issues,
Hmm.
just to kind of get that out of the way. Uh, because you know they are tight, as I say, they are tight with components in general. We only have a limited pool for every team, so you've already lost two or parts of two power units. You're already in the back foot, so when you start looking at more, there's going to be concern. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they'd come up with and if they hopefully get it, you know, resolved.
Okay, Sean, you said you wanted to have a quick chat about obviously Sauber and Nico Hulkenberg. What have you got to say? Is he going to kind of take the momentum that he gained at the last Grand Prix in Spain into Canada? Is he going to be as successful, or is it just going to be a one-off thing that kind of
Well,
brought him into the high points in that race?
um, Well, right off the bat, fifth place was an absolutely incredible result. He put himself in the position, as we always say, to get that look. He was running up at the points anyway, comfortably.
Mm.
So he was scoring points for Sauber in Spain, regardless. But that safety car, good strategy. Max's penalty, all worked well. He got an incredible result, his best result in 6 years. I think I saw somewhere. 2019 was the last time he finished in the top five, which is insane.
Mm.
Nico Hulkenberg's been around for a long time. Um, but even not Hulkenberg, like Bortoleto had a great weekend in Barcelona as well. He just didn't get the highs of Hulk goosing himself up into the points. But Bortoleto had an excellent weekend. He qualified in 12th. He finished 12th. Got a little bit unlucky with the safety car strategy towards the end. Could have been finished in the points, I think, if they'd have closed the gap up a bit closer. But the Sauber works better. The big change they made in Barcelona was the floor. They pretty much changed the entire floor. And in an era of ground effect, if you change your whole floor and it works, you change your whole car. The whole
Mm.
concept of the car is completely redone just by changing. It's one component. It's one very, very big component. But in
Mm.
terms of like the downforce at a track where you need a really, really good aero balance in Spain. There's high speed, there's low speed, there's fiddly bits, and but just flat out through those final corners. It's a good test of the car. It's a perfect place to test the new floor, especially with a bit of curb as well. There's some good curb riding in Barcelona. There will be again in Canada, and if that floor allows them to balance riding a bit higher and still having that downforce level with no porpoising, because that's not really a thing anymore unless you're Ferrari or occasionally Mercedes. But if that floor is nailed on, then they can run the car relatively high. They'll still have good downforce. They'll still have good top speed, and they should do pretty well in Canada. So I'm not going to say I'm going to predict another points finish for them, but high Q2, knock at the door on the points for either or both of them would be a very, very welcome result for Sauber this weekend. I can absolutely see it happening. Um, they should both know this track pretty well at this point. Hulkenberg definitely should. I can't remember, did Formula 2 race there last year? I think they did. Um, so Bortolato probably knows it as well. But it's not a tricky track to get your head around. It's a tricky track to
Mm.
perfect. I think that's the. It looks on paper to be a relatively easy track. There's no difficult sections really on paper, but it is a tricky track. There is walls, there is grass, there is gravel. There are dangers on this track. There's almost guaranteed to be a safety car. There's a lot of opportunity, and like you said, it might rain. So I really really hope Sabre do well this weekend. If they can nail to be consistent-ish point scorers, then they could do themselves a huge amount of favors becoming Audi next year, which they've been very much downplaying for the past couple of weeks. Um, but if they can, yeah, if they can get up there, it'd be great for them. If they can just like kind of cement themselves. So I'm just trying to pull up where they now. They are eighth, so they are ahead of Alpine and Aston. If they can cling on to eighth, even if they don't bring too many more upgrades, that would be a massive
Yeah.
result for the car that we've all been calling a wheelie bin for 2 years.
Absolutely, absolutely. We don't need to talk about all teams and our thoughts about them over the weekend, but what we do need to do is make our weekly predictions. We're going to go round by one, and just do each thing, each individual prediction, just for a bit of a change, just so it's easier for Coops to write them down, and it's easier for us to make our decisions as we go through. So first of all, I want a pole position from Sean.
Pole position in Canada, I am going to say Oscar Piastri.
Coops.
Uh,
Pole
Charles
position.
Leclerc.
Ooh.
And I'm going to say Lando Norris. Podium, Sean.
Podium, I'm going to say Lando first, George Russell second, and Oscar Piastri third. I see something.
Coops.
It'll
Podium.
be Piastri, Leclerc, and Norris.
And I'm going to go for the podium Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Lewis Hamilton. Bold prediction, Sean.
My bold prediction is that ooh, Williams are going to recover double points.
That's not too bold nowadays. That's good for
He's after the
Williams.
past couple of weeks.
Well, yeah, they've had a bad couple of races, but Coops, your bold prediction.
Leclerc getting a pole.
Oh, okay. I suppose so. I suppose so. Um, I guess Ferrari have got to do something to that car. And my bold prediction will be that Max Verstappen loses his license for a race and gets a point on his license somehow.
I like
Is
that.
it bold? Is it bold? I don't know, but it'll be exciting for the season anyway.
We uh
Certainly.
we have Sam on the YouTube screen, the YouTube stream, sorry, who's getting involved, who shared his one. So if you're tuning in on YouTube, give us your comments really, really quickly. So Sam's prediction is Max Pole, Max Lando Charles, top three. And his bold prediction is Lance returns and finishes ahead of Alonso. Is that
Ooh.
bold? Alonso's been really unlucky this year, but we'll see. Um, Ian says Paul Oscar first, George second, Max third, Lando DNF.
Ooh.
Ooh. And the bold
No,
one,
thank you.
he adds on a bold one. The bold one would be Alonso in the top five. The Lando DNF is pretty bold there, Ian. That's interesting.
We don't
And
want that.
Sean, a different Sean, not me, says he'll give me 50 quid if my top three comes off. So I'll hold him to that.
Get your
And his,
PayPal details in the comments there, Sean.
oh, I know him. I know where he lives.
Oh, you're going knocking on your door.
And his bold prediction is that Hamilton finishes ahead of Leclerc. That would certainly get him back on track after Spain. Um, So thank you all very much for your comments there. I had a couple more, just if you don't mind. Ian asks, who do we think is going to hit the wall of champions? And the only way to...
Oscar.
You think Oscar Coops?
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to lose it. But I think Oscar,
He'll do a Monaco
after
on
his
it and
performance in Monaco,
in
yeah, he likes to find those walls.
Hulkenberg will do it after doing so well in the last race. He'll
Yeah.
nail the wheel of champions. That's just the Hulkenberg way.
Yeah, that's very, very likely. Mercedes need a good showing this weekend after the recent results. George has kept them relevant so far this year, but they need a strong double points finish, at least in Canada. That's from Larry. Thank you, Larry. Thank you all very much for your comments. Great to see so many people engaging.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. We've got a couple of news stories that we do need to chat about today. This morning when we woke up, first thing, the news dropped that the 2026 calendar had been made official. Key notes to take from the calendar is we've got a Madrid Grand Prix and they've dropped Imola. We did know this anyway. It's just all been confirmed and the dates have been made available to you all. They have made it more, let's say, green. They've grouped them in better ways, so the logistics and transport is better between each track and circuits. Things like Canada's been grouped with one of the
Miami.
American ones, Miami. That's it, and the triple header at the end is pretty hectic. That's like Las Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi. But yeah, the European leg, it's more. It just makes more sense, I guess, with a big, massive convoy of lorries that they have to send around all the motorways and whatnot. So they are trying their best to be as green as possible. I mean, as green as you can be, burning billions of tons of fuel each and every single year. But yeah, I mean, they've done a fairly good job, I think, of putting the calendar together. What were your thoughts when you first saw it, Sean?
Exactly the same. I'm happy that they've finally shored that up. They did say that last year that they were going to do that for 26. So that the Canada news, especially, I was expecting to happen, which is good. I think we touched on that towards the end of last year when they released this year's calendar. They said that they were going to change it, but it was too short notice to change Canada for 2025. Good to see them do that. You're right. It's small apples, really, on the global scale of Formula One, but they are making changes where they can, I suppose. The thing that really still irks me is the 1 week gap, well, 1 week and 1 day gap officially between Vegas and Qatar, which is absolutely ridiculous to send thousands of humans and 24 to 40 Formula One cars, 20 Formula One cars from Las Vegas on the Pacific coast of America to Qatar. I've been to Qatar. It's 7.5 hours away from here. Vegas is 12 hours.
Do they go the other way?
No,
do they go the other way?
No, they don't, because the jet lag would kill them even more. They go across the Atlantic, which is absolutely ridiculous. And the annoying thing about that is that the Vegas contract has locked it into that weekend. So the only way they're getting around that is to move Qatar earlier in the year, which they can't do because they already did it once and it nearly killed all of the drivers.
Yeah.
So they've sort of written themselves into a hole on that one. I could see the only way they're getting around it is to drop Qatar.
Or put it later into December, so we get racing right up until Christmas Eve or whatever.
Well,
my birthday, that'd be nice. Be nice to watch an F1 race on my birthday.
That'd be the other thing, is to leave a week between Vegas and Qatar and put Qatar the 4th of, because it's a triple header, yeah, Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, which is a bit mad. At least Qatar and Abu Dhabi are within sight of each other. But yeah, they could push them back a week and we'd have Formula One of the win in Christmas. But is anyone going to really want that other than you for your birthday?
Well, I don't know. Maybe. Coops, what did you think of the calendar, especially the addition of Madrid? Obviously, we knew it was going to happen. It was reported late last year that Madrid was joining the calendar. You're shocked that it's not for this transport logistic friendly Is it not a Spanish double header? Should that have been the case, like a Spain double header? And are you looking forward to Madrid after seeing the track layout?
Oh no, not if you're looking at the track layout. I'm interested to see how it works because it's a new track, but
Mm.
it just seems very. It just seems like the kind of track I would design, and I have no idea how to design a track. You're just like, oh, squiggle, squiggle, that was it. When you're doodling, it's like an accidental doodle. Oh, wait a minute, that looks like a racetrack. No, I'm not. I can't.
Were you
It's
sad as a purist to see Imola go?
no, because Formula One had outgrown Emma.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was.
But they are making the cars smaller next year. I think
Just.
By a boher, as they say in Scotland. It's not much.
Just.
there's a difference. There's a definite difference in size. Could that be the difference in making Monaco great?
Formula E proves that small cars are not the answer. I saw this comparison after Monaco. The Formula E cars, everyone says, oh, they're tiny, that's why they can race in Monaco. They're not. Formula E cars are absolutely enormous. They're only about, they're within maybe half a meter either side of a Formula One car. Not big enough. Still way bigger than Formula One cars of 10, 15 years ago, which still couldn't bloody overtake in Monaco. Smaller cars are not the answer that everybody thinks they are. It's other things. The big thing in Formula E is acceleration. They go from 0 to 30 in the blink of an eye. It's the push off the corner that makes them overtakeable, and they don't produce any downforce. That's the big one. It's not the size. It's the wake. One thing though on the Madrid thing, on the calendar on F1.com, they have both of them in as Spain. Obviously, they're both in Spain, but they usually change the names of the races. The races in the States.
Be Madrid versus Barcelona, I guess.
Barcelona, exactly. Miami is called Miami, Vegas is called Vegas, and Austin is called the United States. In the same way that Monza is the Italian Grand Prix and Imola is the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, even though they're both in Italy. At least it's not the San...
Yeah, and didn't they do a similar thing was it Spain, when they had the European Grand Prix? And
Valencia was the European Grand Prix. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So maybe it's TBC because there's still an asterisk beside Madrid there. I think it says, I
think it's down to subject to homologation. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so they might give it the title of the capital Grand Prix or something like that. But as of right now, they are both the Spanish Grand Prix, which is not going to be confusing at all.
We shall see. I'm sure they will rectify that.
I don't think they're allowed to have them as both Spanish Grand Prix.
I didn't think they were.
Was that not the issue with COVID when they were doing two races? One of them was the Austrian Grand Prix, one was the Styrian Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So
and Bahrain needed a different the Sakir. They called it the Sakir.
And then it was Silverstone in the 100th. Do you know there was? They had to name them different, so they will be different. I think it's a bookmark to say that this is where it will be.
Spain and España.
Yeah. It'll be the Madrid Grand Prix. That's what it'll be, or it'll be something really convoluted, like the Emilia Romagna, Barcelona FC Real Madrid Grand Prix, something stupid.
I don't think Barcelona will sponsor a Madrid Grand Prix if they've got a Barcelona Grand Prix.
They won't have one for long, though, will they?
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
My other thing is Canada in May. I did see a tweet. Somebody said this is what the track looked like in May, and it was covered in snow. So this could be an interesting one if it's going to be very cold.
Yeah, that's a one-off. I've been in Montreal in May. It was 30 degrees. I think if it was in March, different story. The end of May, I think they'll be okay. A bit more chance of rain, but then when has Canada ever not had a chance of rain?
And we like rain when it comes to Canada.
Rain, especially in Canada. Not when you're there. It was warm when I was there, thankfully. But I don't think it's going to snow in Canada. But if it does, the super wet tires have to be used at some point in the next few years.
That's it. Any other news? We've got Haas celebrating 200 races in F1 with a special livery. I have not actually seen it, so I can't comment. But Coops, have you seen it? Do you like it?
Slack. Go and have a look right now. It is basically the 2000.
Give me an opinion.
It's the 2025 version of the very first ever livery. It's actually quite nice. It is really quite nice. It's the grey and black kind of livery from the past. The picture I shared into our Slack has the comparison between the first and the next one. For anyone who's listening to it, Tiller has changed his face in a very Me.
Can I share my screen here? Let me share my. Can I share my screen? Does it allow for the YouTubers to
Nope.
the YouTube streamers? Will they see that if I? Oh,
Well, whoever's on, if anybody can comment on the YouTube if they can see it, but
can you see that?
uh,
What do you reckon to the new Haas livery anyway? The special Haas livery for. I'm guessing it's the bottom one because the top one is the current. Yeah.
It is the bottom one, yes.
Yeah. I don't really see much difference. I mean, obviously they've moved things about a bit, but I don't know.
what do you mean?
I'm
It's
I'm not
it's
as
white
excited about it.
normally. It's white normally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I like it. I think it looks good. I like that
Yeah.
they've done something. It
it
wasn't an
does it
exciting livery in 2016, but it looks much better on the modern car.
Yeah.
does it look like a glaze, like it's glazed? Do you
Yeah, it
know
does a
how
little bit, yeah.
like it's a glazed donut? Someone dipped it in like Krispy Kreme's glaze. It doesn't. I don't, perhaps that's what I'm missing. Perhaps it'll look different in person, as it were.
Krispy Kreme, if you're
Oh.
watching, sponsor us for that one.
Oh,
Just
I
to
love
be
some donut scent.
just for everyone in here, yes, that screen was shared to the live. So
Hey,
there
that
probably is
worked.
some comments there, so it did work. But anyone put your
Do
comments in
you
if you
like
liked
the
it or not.
glazed Haas F1 team's car for Canada?
Well, Tiller has no account for taste, it's fine. Uh,
Glazed Haas F1. I'm gonna use that over the weekend.
but
Uh,
I liked it. I thought it was quite nice. It's another Grand Prix in Canada. Probably half the drivers are going to put out their 15th version of their helmet for the race, like some sort of maple leaf version. Can't like I get really annoyed that they keep changing the designs of
no, I like I
their
like I
helmets.
like the special helmets personally. I like a
Yeah.
special helmet.
Yes,
Um,
I'm sure. My issue is that like maybe once a year, like I still think, and this is what I think we should do. We should have one race a year where it's retro. Everything goes back. We get retro helmets. We get some old school kind of retro. The Williams with the famous Mansell 5 1, the blue, white, and the yellow. We get some kind of iteration of the Marlboro sponsorship. Something, things. Just every team does it for one weekend, and all us old people can be like, "Could you remember back in the day?" They do it in like NHL. They do it in America in football. American football, not soccer.
I
Uh,
I would love to see that.
it,
Once a year, whether maybe it's at Monaco, that
that's what I was going to say.
they all
Monaco.
have to do a retro livery, which would be hilarious for Cadillac if they did it next year because it'd just be their current livery. Um, but like give McLaren can choose between obviously the Marlboro or the
Go
West
Chrome.
McLarens that go
Yeah.
full Vodafone Chrome. Bring back the U ducts from the 2011 car.
Yeah, just
Special place in my heart for them.
the Superman type helmet, the things for the pit crew. I think once a year,
Oh,
Monaco
Red Bull could do their
just
Star
go.
Wars thing again and dress them all up
Yeah,
as stormtroopers. That was awesome.
yeah. We might actually see a Red Bull with a different livery than we normally do. So yeah, it's just like I think they're missing a trick. I think they need to do something. And Monaco being how close you are with the fans and speaking like there's areas where it's really quite slow with the corners and stuff. You can get a lot out of it, and it would be so good to revisit. We've got so much history in Formula One. I would like to see Formula One celebrate it a bit more with the current
mm.
iteration,
Hmm.
and do something. I know they keep going on about the brand is now, and like Zach Brown said that about how they never really changed this livery because this is the new era for that. But you can't forget what you've done, and like we all relate to the liveries we see. We remember the liveries because they're important to our life. The generations now will remember the papaya because that's what brought them in. I remember McLaren being white and red, and I remember them with the chrome, and I remember Ferrari when they had different wings and different colours in them. So, like Jordan, like Aston Martin, doing like the Benson and Hisses, Jordan
Oh,
or something, that would be
be on edge.
stunning. That just
Yeah,
just
buzzing and hornets.
the buzzing and Hornets or something, or even going full, the Jordan 193 and going full 7-Up,
Green seven,
back in
yeah.
the day. That would be amazing. Just like come on, like for once a year, let's forget that Formula One is just sponsorship and logos and corporate, and let's just have some fun with some liveries. But make it mean
Yeah.
something, not just silly liveries like somebody's coloured it in with a marker pen or something, or we've got a special livery and they've changed the duct. Properly commit to it.
Commit to it.
Yeah, it's
Definitely.
a bit like when Mercedes did it that at Germany, where it was like they went back the way, but they just changed the nose. You're like, no, commit to the bit, mate. Come on, the full car.
Yeah, but
So
they don't want to talk about that race ever again after the
no, no, it was bad.
terrible
No, it was bad.
circumstances. Yeah, that they look like the Benny Hill theme song was played over their
No, no, it wasn't. It
stops
was the
anyway.
guy playing the Formula One theme tune.
Oh yeah,
No, it was the theme tune that
with
was
the
played
flute
badly. Yeah, and
on the
I think
yeah
I think
recorder
I,
or
sh I
flute.
think I shared that on our Slack, and you were buckled about 3 days. Uh, but
Anyway,
anyway, there you go.
moving swiftly on. You did mention movies then, like Star Wars, blah blah blah, this, that, and the other. Formula One have their very own movie coming out before Austria on June the 25th. It's just called the F1 movie. How inventive and how unique. It's got Brad Pitt in. It's got quite a few other great celebrity cast members. Are you looking forward to it? Are you going to be one of these people that sees it on opening night, or will you wait till it comes to streaming services? Sean.
I don't know about opening night, but I will definitely go see it in the cinema. This feels like it's going to be one of those films that deserves to be seen in cinemas. I don't know how excited I am for it. I like Jerry Bruckheimer films. He did Pirates of the Caribbean. It's one of my favorite trilogies of all time. And Joseph Kosinski did Top Gun Maverick, which was a
Mm.
masterpiece. And he's used a lot of the same styles in terms of like in-camera work. So obviously Top Gun famous for actually sending the actors up in fighter jets, making them throw up. The Formula One movie, as we've all seen in the past couple of years, they taught Brad Pitt and Damson Idris how to drive. They stuck them in the cars, they stuck cameras on them, and they actually were out there driving. Not in races, but they were driving. And unlike some other films, like I watched Ford v Ferrari a couple of weeks ago again, love that film, brilliant story. The racing scenes
Mm.
in it are crap. You can very, very clearly see they are pretty low budget CGI.
Yeah.
Um, it's still good, but if you know, you know, and it kind of takes you out of it. The Ferrari movie from a couple of years ago with Adam Driver, again, excellent story, really atrocious CGI when it came to the actual racing. Rush is probably the best it's ever been done because, again, Ron Howard, despite knowing nothing about Formula One by his own admission, did a lot of that filming in camera. So it is actually kit cars with the bodies of the old 70s cars filmed in camera for the most part. So it was much more believable. Obviously, they didn't light someone on fire for the Niki Lauda scene. That was done in CGI. I love those films where you can tell that it's in camera. By the sounds of it, this one will be. And this, like, I don't know if you saw the technology they used. They basically put like LiDAR cameras on the Alpines and a couple of other cars so that they could basically overlay what the camera was seeing of the real Formula One car with what should be the Apex GP team car for
Mm.
the race, so that they can actually get in race footage of the cars actually going up through Spa, through Eau Rouge and Raidillon and all that. So all the tech they're using for it sounds like they're going to make the racing very, very believable. The car action very, very believable. But there's one line of dialogue in the trailer that is just throwing me off. And it's this argument of we can't beat them on the straights, we need to beat them in the corners. That is straight out of the 1962 Formula One playbook. That is not how modern Formula One works. Modern Formula One cars, nobody beats anybody down the straights. They all beat each other through the corners. It is a downforce sport. That screams of people who don't quite get it. And the drivers who all went to see the preview in Monaco, a lot of their comments seem to suggest that it looks like a
Oh
good time.
no.
It looks like an exciting time. It's like the racing elements are good. Brad Pitt and Damson Idris are getting good reviews for their acting, which is not surprising. But I think Carlos Sainz said in his interview, he's basically saying like, "There's one moment that'll basically take you out of the film. You'll know it when you see it." I was like,
Mm.
he basically meant for the purists, for those of us who live and breathe by Formula One. But at the end of the day, I'm sure fighter pilots think that about Top Gun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be interesting as a story, hasn't it,
exactly
for a movie, and they've got to make
they have
drama
to
in
make
places
Hollywood
maybe.
out of it. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I am looking forward to it. Am I going to go on opening night? Probably not because it's on like a Thursday. It's a bit of an awkward day. But I'll definitely go see it in the cinema, and I'm really I am looking forward to it because it's a Formula One movie, and if it could do even half, for even a third for Formula One, what Drive to Survive did, then we're about to get a massive new influx of fans, and that is always a good thing.
yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it personally. I think it'll be funny. I think what's going to take me out of it is the fact that Brad Pitt is a 61-year-old bloke getting into a Formula One car, and
Oh
he's
yeah,
going to
there's a
be
line.
competing at the front. Like,
There is a line with him
I know
racing
he
that he
looks
raced.
younger, but
There's a line as well apparently that he raced against Senna. No, he didn't. He was racing the 2024 season. He absolutely didn't race against Senna. Otherwise, he's the same age as Martin Brundle.
Hmm.
So
Coop, so
I
you're
hope
looking
they
forward
take
to
that
it?
out.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I love the movies. I love this. I just recently went and watched the final Mission Impossible film, and got the scran, sat down, and for nearly 3 hours, I just absorb, I love it. I love taking myself out of reality and getting involved in it. But I also know that there will be people that'll come out and go, "Yeah, the F1 movie, I mean, it does this, it takes me out of it." Like, yeah, because it's almost like Netflix Drive to Survive is for certain people. The F1 movie is for certain people. You've got to park the fact that I'm parking the fact that I do a podcast in Formula One, and I watch it, and we study it, and we read about it, and we learn about it, and I'm going in to watch a movie about Formula One. What I'm taking from it is it's a movie. It's got
Mm.
Brad Pitt driving a Formula One car. That's it. That's all I need him. He's 61 years old and coming back for redemption. We know that's not really going to happen in real life, but I mean, I watch films. Like, these are the same people that will talk about how much they love Avengers Endgame when you had Iron Man suits and Spider-Man and stuff. Oh, but the Formula One movie is not realistic. Seriously, mate? Are we having the same conversation? Yeah.
I'm
Like,
gonna hold my
let's.
hand up on that one.
Yeah. So it's a film about
Yeah.
with Formula One in it. I'm going to go and enjoy it as a story. If I think the story's crap, I'm going to come back and say, yeah, it wasn't very good, but I did like the elements they're doing. They're doing as much as they can to keep it as realistic in terms of the cars. I think there's
Yeah, all the current grids in it, aren't they? They're all
Yeah.
there. They're all the actual competitors. So that's going to be interesting if
and
you're
we've seen the
fan.
clips where they remotely crashed the cars so they could get the actual physical. Obviously, they'll use CGI to make it look a bit better because there's only so much you can do practically when you're just driving a car into a wall. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's got the budget, it's got the right people behind it. If there's a couple of wee moments in there that aren't quite right, like you can't beat them in the straights, you beat them in the corners, or whatever the word was, I'm a bit surprised that like Lewis Hamilton's production company or Lewis Hamilton himself didn't come in and say,
No. Yeah.
maybe not.
Yeah, cheesy line.
I'll tell you what is fun though, is the whole team, including Brad Pitt, are in the F1 25 game, which is cool. So in my current
Yes,
career mode in F1 25, I am racing alongside Brad Pitt and wiping the floor with him in the Apex GP car. That's a plus for me. And there's scenes
That's a
from the
good way of
film. There's scenes and kind of scenarios from the film that you can play out, which I haven't done yet because I don't want to spoil anything about the film for myself.
That's good
But
promotion.
it's
That
a
is good
it's a
promotion.
good tie-in. The Formula One, the new F1 game is good. It's better than last year's one. It's good timing for it. It's good. It's a cool kind of little. It's weird to see Brad Pitt in a Formula One car in a Formula One game. And he has this big sad face on him whenever you beat him in a race. He just shakes his head like that. It's hilarious.
I think what
We've
people
got
also finally before we move on to it, I think what a lot of people need to realise is that I've lost my train of thought. Formula One, the Formula One movie, as I say, is a movie, and it's not going to break the bank and be like generational. And the story's like, oh my god, this is an amazing story. It's not going to win Oscars.
Mm.
It's just good. It's a popcorn movie, as I want to put it.
It's a summer blockbuster.
Go out and just enjoy it. Get your popcorn. For me, it's nachos. That might be something I might ask the rest of the fans. What would you be taking with
salty
you?
popcorn.
Yeah, I can't take too
Buttery
much popcorn. I can't. It gets in the teeth. It's really annoying. So I'm going to take my popcorn. No doubt the boy Morgan will probably want to go. He'll probably cost me an arm and a leg with the scan he wants to get. As most
Sean will
kids
deep
do.
throat a hot dog.
I don't do hot dogs as I'm a vegetarian. So yes,
I said
I
Sean.
stick.
I knew you. I knew you didn't. That's why I pinpointed that to Sean.
I wouldn't even eat the
Because I
hot
knew you
dog
were a
when I used to eat
vegetarian.
meat because my God, do you know what they make that stuff with?
Yeah, there's no
Uh,
actual meat in them.
it's not meat, no,
It's all
it's
bones
the
and gristle.
souls
Mm.
from the gingers of the world, I think. So
They
yeah,
don't have any.
exactly. That's where they are. They're in
There's a,
everybody's hot dogs.
there's a
Yeah.
quote here for one of the reviews from Rotten Tomatoes that says, "Just since he's F1 the movie, hits the gas and doesn't stop. The races are epic. The sound design, editing, cinematography, performances, and music are all top notch. You definitely feel shades of Top Gun Maverick in that it plays like an old school summer blockbuster. What a ride!"
Yes, that's
Fantastic.
it.
Sounds like a summer block.
Good.
It feels like if the Top Gun movies or the Mission Impossible movies are your cup of tea, which they are mine, that it should be good fun, and the fact that it's a Formula One movie as well. And Ian's
Yeah,
looking forward to it as well. He's just commented on the YouTube stream.
just head into the cinema. Don't switch your, F1 nerdy brain on. Just
Mm,
switch your brain off for a bit and just enjoy the fun. You don't. Not every film has to be historically perfectly accurate. Has to be, completely stick to every single law that's been, written over the history of it.
mm,
Just some movies are just there for fun and to enjoy. And I think this is what F1, the
agreed.
F1, the movie, is going to be about. So just go and enjoy it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure you all will as well. I don't think we've got anything else to talk about now. I think it's a good time to wrap up this podcast. Are there any other comments on the YouTube feed that you'd like to discuss before we do
Uh,
wrap it up?
no, just the last one. A note from Sean that says, "Doesn't the lateness of Vegas make it less of an issue moving back to the Middle East?" Yes, because it's technically on Saturday night, so it's an extra day.
Mm.
But because it's on Saturday night, I think that screws with everybody's timelines even more because it's not even like they try and keep on European time. It's a completely random time.
Mm.
Um, so there might be that, but then of course Qatar and Abu Dhabi are night races too, so maybe that plays into it. It's still a long way to go in essentially 3 days because they have to start setting up. Um, and yeah, just that final comment from me, and he's looking forward to F1 the movie for the fact that it's F1. I think most of us who tune into everything F1, eat, drink, and sleep F1. Yes, we do. And to Tiller's point, yes, try switch your brain off. I know I will.
Yes. And remember, we have this is the world that exists with Braveheart. Now, if anybody knows even the tiniest bit of history,
Freedom!
yes, yeah, we didn't have blue face paint and the Battle of Bannockburn. There's a bridge involved
What?
in one of those battles, which
You didn't
isn't in
have
the
blue
film
face paint.
back then. No.
Call yourself a Scot.
Oh, they were wearing the kilts wrong and everything. I mean, most of the film is the absolute takes the rip out of history, but it's still a good film, and I still
Yeah, it's
enjoy it.
entertaining.
So,
And
you
I
know,
especially like the scene where Mel Gibson is running towards the other army, and in one cut he's got an axe, in the next cut he's got a shield, in the next cut he's got a sword. What is he doing with his weapon in that? That's just
well, to be
bizarre.
fair, he was running while trying to direct the film at the same time, so clearly he just had a wee bit too much on.
He just forgot. Yeah, in the editing cut, he was like, "What weapon shall I carry in this scene?
I can't
Maybe all
remember.
of them, all
Aye,
of them."
it was fun.
Uh, Okay, well, that's everything we've got to chat about today on the Everything F1 podcast. We hope you enjoy the weekend in Canada. We will speak to you after the race. It could be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, depending on when our team are available. But hopefully, we've got a great race to discuss. We are Everything F1. Find us on all our social platforms. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all at the handle at JoinEF1. Don't forget to head to our sponsors and buy yourself your merchandise, getting a 10% discount using the discount code EF1 at checkout. And also hit the subscribe button on YouTube to make sure you're entered into our competition. When we get to 500 subscribers, you'll be in with a chance to win a Lego Speed Champions set of your choice. Thank you very much from me, James Tiller, and thank you from the team, Coops
Thank you.
and Sean.
Adios.
We have been the Everything F1 podcast, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.